Metroid is one of the greatest video game series of all time, and if you haven't played it, you owe it to yourself to at least try it out. Because not only has it had groundbreaking mechanics and new ways to play, creating literally an entire genre of gaming just based off of the name alone, but also featuring a female protagonist and being one of the first games in history to do such a thing and bringing it to such prominence. And thankfully, up until now, it's been able to avoid that dreaded modern audience. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. A story is breaking right now that some people might hear this and say, oh man, Smash, you are blowing this way out of proportion. It's really not that big of a deal. But the more research I did on it and the further I went down this rabbit hole, the more I realized it actually could be some serious foreshadowing for the future of the series. Mercury Steam, the Spanish development studio behind Metroid Dread, has recently followed quite the controversial figure on Twitter known as Blizzy. Blizzy is a Spanish feminist activist, and many have dubbed her the Anita Sarkeesian 2.0. She's backed by several activist organizations and uses her platform to push censorship of in-game content, especially regarding portrayals of women that she claims to perpetuate harmful norms and stereotypes. This is someone that uses the grift of feminism to their advantage to make money, caring not for what they destroy along the way. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out SmashJT.com for the full article about how Mercury Steam has followed Blizzy and how this could provide a lot more negative insight for the future direction of Metroid in general. Metroid fans, brace yourselves. Mercury Steam, the Spanish development studio behind Metroid Dread and the Castlevania Lord of the Shadows series, is raising some proverbial eyebrows once again over a recent social media choice and the potential impact on future Metroid games. The studio has drawn attention not for their gameplay innovations or upcoming projects this time, but instead due to an ideological shift that has many fans of the series extremely concerned. And when we dive into the background of this Blizzy character, it's going to tell you all you need to know about this Anita Sarkeesian 2.0. Learning the Law on Twitter said, breaking, Mercury Steam, the famous Spanish developer known for Castlevania Lord of Shadow and Metroid Dread, lately has been recruiting far-left developers into their team and has plans for new games in the Metroid Prime franchise. They were caught following a well-known Spanish figure dubbed Anita Sarkeesian 2.0. Blizzy is an activist backed by several organizations and is known for promoting censorship of games that feature revealing clothing on female characters. Her main goal is to combat heteronormativity. She has published books and profited from using Anita Sarkeesian's material. Her account is locked following the allegations from Spanish individuals that she attempted to shut down dissenting voices who disagree with her radical views, and this is concerning. We are talking about a company that embraces the goals of feminist frequency in charge of future Metroid games. And in the interest of giving the full story, you guys know I don't want to give half of it. There is another side to this, which is why I say take all this as just a concern at this point. Spring on Twitter replied to me saying, Mercury Steam is a third-party studio who work with Nintendo, and when they work on Nintendo games, they work directly with Yoshito Sakamoto, the creator of Metroid. They do not have creative control over Samus. This is considered co-development. Source below, and he links the official Nintendo YouTube video of the development of Metroid Dread. And he said, also, Retro Studios is technically the developer for Metroid. They are 100% owned by Nintendo. The future of Metroid is absolutely not in doubt. So now that I've given both sides of the perspective, I want to dive further into this video as why I lean towards being concerned just like Manga Lawyer is, knowing that deep down, ultimately, Nintendo does have creative control, and hoping that ultimately they always will make the right choice in the future. Once a studio known for high-stakes action games and a commitment to delivering experiences that fans treasure, Mercury Steam has, unfortunately, more recently, made a curious choice by actively going beyond recruiting developers and influencers with agendas that extend far beyond just game design. They've been spotted following Blizzy, a Spanish activist that's been dubbed Anita Sarkeesian 2.0, someone who stands out for their openly radical views against men specifically. Backed by several activist organizations, Blizzy's platform pushes for the censorship of in-game content, especially regarding the portrayals of women that she claims perpetuate harmful norms. Her public history aligns directly with the goals and the methods of Anita Sarkeesian's feminist frequency, which I've spoken about previously on this channel. Her influence has only grown due to her governmental ties. For years, she's used her platform to criticize games featuring female characters with, get this, revealing clothing, because oh my god, you can't do that because that marginalizes women or something. But it's totally fine if, like, I don't know, a dude takes his shirt off in a game. No one's going to complain about that. She argues that this kind of aesthetic combats heteronormativity by enforcing what she perceives as outdated gender stereotypes. And you know exactly where I'm going with this. Blizzy's activism isn't just limited to social media or independent events. According to Cry Alexa on Twitter, the Spanish government, particularly the Ministry of Equality, has extended a platform to her by sponsoring events where she's spoken to young people on feminist topics within gaming. And those same people that she talked to, those kids, laughed her out of the room, embarrassing her to the point of making her cry. So I guess from a certain light, there is some hope for the future. Cry Alexa on Twitter said, "Hello, Manga Lawyer. Blizzy is a Spanish activist who has been allowed by the Spanish government to give talks and even go to institutes to indoctrinate kids. She has been playing the victim for years because they expose her ridiculous feminist activism by looking for problems in video games that she invents to cry about. Many right-wing Spanish YouTubers have laughed at her for years, and she tried to get the government to make laws to silence them in addition to having half of Twitter blocked. A few days ago, I made a video about her because she was at a talk and the kids left her crying by ignoring her and laughing at her." And I know a lot of people are going to hear this and say, okay, but what does this have to do with Metroid? So they followed her on Twitter. Big whoop, they follow a lot of people on Twitter. Who cares? Not a big deal. You can't cancel someone for who they follow, which is very true. But you got to admit, it's a little bit, I don't know, curious that the studio behind Metroid Dread just followed a very big activist feminist on Twitter, and you don't have any kind of concerns about that? The potential for Blizzy's influence with Mercury Steam is raising some questions about the future of Metroid in general. The franchise rooted in action, exploration, and a welcomed, nuanced approach to gender representation, Metroid's heroine, Samus Aran, has been a cultural icon in gaming for decades, celebrated for her strength and independence. But if the development team behind her next adventure prioritizes this kind of ideologically driven change, a lot of people fear that that very thing is what destroys the very qualities that made Samus special in the first place. Because once again, the people invading the video game industry do not care about video games. They care about pushing ideologies, feminism, marginalized voices, pushing the agenda to the max and destroying the entire industry, leaving it in their wake, not caring about the consequences of any of their actions. Myself and many longtime Metroid fans are extremely wary of what's going to lie ahead with all of this. For anyone that wants to get mad at me for bringing up this as a concern, that Mercury Steam's influence of the future of Metroid may be overblown, I understand that Metroid is ultimately controlled by Nintendo and the series co-creator Yoshito Sakamoto, not Mercury Steam. And if Mercury Steam fails to deliver, and if they're a part of anything Metroid moving forward, hopefully Nintendo can just shift the series to another developer. Because the buck stops with Nintendo, and hopefully they see enough and haven't been influenced enough by worldwide propaganda that's going on that's affecting other Japanese studios like Square Enix in particular right now, but also Namco Bandai, among a slew of others that are completely shifting the dynamic of how they make games because of ideologies that are being pressed worldwide right now. Thankfully, for the time being, Nintendo hasn't gone off the deep end yet, but it seems like it's just a matter of time, unfortunately, based off of the surrounding circumstances. Which is exactly why I want to call this out as soon as I see it happening, because this is exactly the type of slippery slope that always seems to transpire and turn into something far worse down the road. So at least I can say when it happens, hey, Remember when Smash made that video talking about how Metroid Dread and Metroid in general might be going down the proverbial woke path? Well, here was the signs. The warning signs were all there, and nobody did anything to stop it. Let's hope that's not the case. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Again, shout out to Mangalawyer and CryAlexa on Twitter for bringing this to my attention. If you guys appreciate what I'm doing, hit that join button. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, you stay smashing.
Están monetizando son los antifeministas. Los antifeministas son los que están generando dinero. Y no solo están generando dinero los antifeministas, están haciendo un sueldo de la hostia con nuestras caras. Con nuestras caras, y aquí mis compañeras lo saben incluso mejor que yo. Nuestras caras están cada día en sus vídeos, en sus directos. Gente que tiene una audiencia enorme y son esponjas.